Hello, Internet. Welcome to Only Lovers Book Club, where us three best friends forever get together once a month to read a romance, and we talk about it and ask each other questions about it. And this month was my pick. But a couple of things off the top here. If you like what you see, and trust me, if you're not on YouTube, if you're listening, if you're listening to the podcast, just pause, go to our YouTube, check out our super cool outfits. So I am wearing like my most basic white shirt, but I also have like a cool bulletproof vest because I'm security. I'm the security of this team, the security of this romance college. Get ready to fall in love with my sexy arms and my sexy buns. Tosh is wearing. What are you wearing? Tell me what you're wearing.
This is what I would dress up like if I were the main character of this book, living my best witch life. I've got my sage stick, I've got my crystals, I've got my super shiny seashell on the inside. It's like, look at that.
Ooh.
How shiny that is, right?
Yeah.
I'm just here to, manifest some sex magic.
Yeah. Stay homey, baby.
Shiny crystal, just
awesome. Whip it up. And while you do that, Drea, what is it that you're wearing?
I am wearing a rugby uniform that is meant for a 200-some-pound man, but I think fits me just great. So I don't know what that says about. I don't know. Anyway, I am wearing rugby shorts and rugby socks, which are my favorite thing because they are over the knee socks, and I feel like I don't get to wear over the knee socks nearly as often as I would like. And a rugby t-shirt, and I also have a rugby duffel bag and a rugby ball because
you're fully
I committed.
You're ready.
Yeah, I committed with the accessories, and you can't really see most of that on the screen, but I took a picture, and I am sure Chris will post all of our pictures somewhere. So
yeah, get ready for that thirst trap. That's basically what that is. Love it.
Yeah, 100%. I am sexy rugby Zaf. Basically.
You are.
Yeah, and right, the significance of us dressing up is get into the spirit because our main characters, Danica, is a Black bisexual college professor witch, modern witch. And then Zaf, the boy love interest, is a rugby player / coach and the security guard where Danica works. So we're all just kind of like cosplaying as like the characters. So if you like what you see or you like what you hear, feel free to leave us a tip on our tip jar. There's a link to our coffee page. If you're in the description box on YouTube, you'll be able to see the links to the various things that we want you to read and check out. Andrea's book links, Tashai's website, my Instagram, and my zine. And you can always sign up for our newsletter or follow Only Lovers Book Club on Instagram. All right, I think that's everything. There are spoilers. We're going to spoil the book. So hopefully you've read it and you're just kind of tagging along for a discussion. So I picked Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the book. It's so happy and yellow. And it's part of the Brown Sisters romance series that she's writing. The first one being Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I read and I loved. And so I knew when this one was coming out, I knew that I needed to read about the next one and the next one that's coming. That's the other sister that I can't remember her name now, but the one that wants to smell underwear. Yeah. Evie. Yeah.
Is hers what was hers called? I think I already saw it.
Get a clue.
Get a clue. Yeah. Okay. What's up? Who knew? It's me. It's you. Get a clue.
Okay. And so generally I laughed, but I picked it because I enjoyed Chloe Brown so much. I wanted you guys to read something by the author as well. I think Tashai read the Chloe Brown book. Andrea didn't, but she has read was it a werewolf book by the author? It was a really short
Mating
novella.
the Huntress. It was so good. Yeah.
And so we've all kind of like read a little bit about her, but this is the book that we're reading together. So if you don't know about it, it goes a little bit like this. Danica Brown knows what she wants: professional success, academic renown, and an occasional roll in the hay to relieve all that career-driven tension. But romance, been there, done that. Burn the t-shirt. Romantic partners, whatever their gender, are a distraction at best and a drain at worst. So Dani asks the universe for the perfect friend with benefits, someone who knows the score and knows the way around the bedroom. When big, brooding security guard Zafir Ansari rescues Dani from a workplace fire drill gone wrong, it's an obvious sign. PhD student Dani and former rugby player Zaf are destined to sleep together. So before we can explain... all right. Before she can explain that fact to him, a video of the heroic rescue goes viral. Suddenly, half the internet is shipping hashtag Dr. Rugby, and Zaf is begging Dani to play along. Turns out his sports charity for kids could really use the publicity. Vying to help children? Who on earth would refuse? Dani's plan is simple. Fake a relationship in public, seduce Zaf behind the scenes. The trouble is, Grumpy Zaf is secretly a romantic. And he's determined to corrupt Dani's stone-cold realism. Before long, he's tackling her fears into the dirt. But the former sports star has issues of his own, and the walls around his heart are as thick as his thighs. Or dreams. Those in the picture. Just you wait, internet. Suddenly, the easy lay Dani dreamed of is more complex than her thesis. Has her wish backfired? Is her focus being tested? Or is the universe waiting for her to take a hint?
Hey.
And I definitely read that. I think that the back of that book describes the book very thoroughly, and yet there were still a lot of things that I enjoyed. Anyway, okay.
Okay, so two book first impressions. Okay. I liked the book. It was a good read. I read it pretty quickly. I thought Zaf was just so big and smushy and full of feelings. As soon as they had him liking romance novels, I was like, okay. All right, I see you. I see what you did there. You take the girl who doesn't want to fall in love and you put her together with a dude who reads romance novels. I see what's going on. Is anyone else hearing an echo? Is it just me?
Yeah, I can hear a bit of an echo.
I do not hear an echo.
Well,
but it's okay. My audio is the one that matters, so don't worry.
Exactly. Cool. All right. I liked Dani mostly. I liked her enough. I liked reading her perspectives. I thought that if there was one weaker character out of the two, I would say it was her, in my opinion, just because I could understand where a lot of Zaf's character behaviors were coming from, and his personal trauma and kind of the steps he took to become the character he is now when we're reading about him. But with Dani, it just kind of felt like her backstory and the reason behind all of her behavior and stuff was just not strong enough for me, especially for someone who's just so smart and so driven and so confident. It felt like there should have been kind of more to what drove her to decide that she never wants to fall in love again. Mm-hmm. I've certainly experienced my fair share of men disappointing me, and
specifically one that we hate.
No, various. There have been various.
I know, but I'm just saying I will forever hate the ones I know about.
In the Venn diagram of all of when we're all three, and then the one that we all kind of coincide with, that one.
that guy particularly. No, so I've had my fair share of men disappointing me, and it wasn't so much to kind of take me out of the game forever, or even to have the attitude that she took on of just kind of well, fuck everyone. I think if a man broke my heart to that degree, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to pursue a romantic relationship with not a man. And let me just go ahead and get rid of that entire gender. Fuck them. I wouldn't necessarily just say I'm never gonna fall in love, period. So but I like the families a lot. I'm glad we got to see the sisters again. Now that we have like experience from reading the Chloe Brown book. Like I had a bigger vibe for what the family's style is, how they talk to each other, what their energies are. And I really liked that Zaph's family had so many women that they were, you know, so vocal and just talking and energetic, and we got to hear from them and got kind of distinct personalities, which is really refreshing for getting an introduction into like a man's side of the family. Like a lot of the times I feel like there aren't that many female voices or perspectives, and so I thought that was really strong writing. And also just like cultural representation to me was like, it was nice to see that and have it happen so organically to the story. Like it didn't, no one was calling attention to the fact that they were highlighting these like culturally specific things. It was just part of the story. It was so nice to read. But yeah, all in all, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Like I want to read the third one. I definitely thought there was like less sex in this one than I thought there was going to be, just based on how it went down with Chloe Brown. So there was kind of like a lot of teasing up to it, and it focused a lot more on the relationship, which like I understand, especially because coming from a character whose whole thing is like, I just want to find someone to have sex with. Focusing on that less so, like, does make sense based on the story you're trying to tell. Whereas with Chloe Brown, like, she very much was not about sex, and the book had like a lot more of that, and like body exploration and accepting and stuff, which makes sense for what her journey was. But yeah, I've had good feelings about this story.
Hell yeah. Okay. What about you, Drea? How do you feel? What were your first impressions overall, I guess?
I liked it. I liked it too. I gave it 4 stars, I think. And this was, I hadn't read the previous book, so I didn't have anything to compare it with in terms of like contemporary romance, because the previous romance I had read by the author, you know, involved werewolves and biting to make you their mate, etc. So this was kind of a new genre for me with her. But I do think it lived up to the expectations. Like I saw a lot of hype about this book on Instagram, and that sometimes makes me a little nervous, because sometimes I'll read a book that everybody loves and I'm like, okay, I mean, it was all right. But that wasn't the case here. I kept hearing that it was very funny and that it was very sexy, and I agreed, and I thought it was very funny and very sexy. As far as the amount of sex, I mean, I don't have Chloe Brown to compare it to, but I thought that the sex that there was steamy, and just the right amount. I think if there had been more of it, I might have been a little more like, oh, it's that kind of romance, which, you know, I'm not, you know, super into. But the liquids were kept to a minimum, so I appreciated that a lot. Yeah, no, I like the characters. I thought Zaph was a huge sweetheart. He's not the kind of like character that I usually go for, because if you've been watching us for a while, you know, I always want the completely unavailable, shut off, like male robot type characters. And
morally ambiguous, you know.
Yeah, and he's very much the opposite of that. He's like, I'm a nice, sweet person, and I want a relationship and a happily ever after, and let's talk about our feelings. But I still really liked him, and I wanted them to get together, and it was kind of a low stakes romance for me. You know, like I knew there was going to be a happily ever after. So I didn't really have to like stress too much about it when reading. You know, I was like, haha, they're fake dating, and sure, okay, they don't like each other, but they do like each other, you know, kind of thing. So it was just, you know, it was un merenguito. It was a nice merenguito that was also a little more intellectual than other merenguitos that we read. So I enjoyed it, and I don't know if I will keep reading the books, but that's just because I'm not a huge romance person. But I wouldn't be upset if we read more like with only lovers. Like I was very happy with that this was Christina's pick. I encourage her to make more picks like this one. and not others that she has made, which will not be mentioned here. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. Very happy with it.
Shade.
Got fired. Opening old wounds. Well, it makes me really happy to know that both of you enjoyed the book. You know, there's always the fear. Oh no, it isn't good. But you know, even when it's not that good, I can find stuff to talk about. So I just kind of like to go over the things that I really enjoyed. I really liked it. I will say I don't want to off the top. I don't want to compare it too much to Chloe Brown. I don't think that that's fair. I think that the book can stand on its own. But I will say that I enjoyed Chloe's journey a little more than Dani's, and that does have something to do with the writing and something that Tashai had mentioned originally about like, okay, how well do I know her? But we'll talk about it. I love Talia Hibbert's writing. I think it's super funny. I just think this book is hilarious. I thought the other book was funny too, but this book made me like lamau. And I had a lot of scenes where I felt very seen. And like, for example, when Zaf is listening to the romance scene or the really sexy scene in the romance audiobook that he's listening to. First of all, I cringe so hard just listening to a sex scene. I could never. It's the one genre that I will not listen to the audiobook for because I cannot. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It was a fast read. It brightened up my slow hours at work. Yes, I took it to work because at work I'll try to just take really light fare. And I'm just glad we liked it. So let's get down to it. I got some questions here. There's a few. I don't care. Let's get down to it. So my first question is also because Tashai is kind of like representing Dani as the modern witch. And Drea had asked me this a little while ago when I saw her. Do you think that the statue worked? Did the statue send her Zaf? And then I guess overall the question would be, so what did you think of Dani's practice of modern witchcraft as a way to get closer to her Nana?
I'll go first.
We could just do it like that, where we could just bounce that way. So
just chatting. So I wouldn't necessarily say that she got what she wanted, because what she wanted was just like a fuck buddy. Like, she didn't want anything romantic, right? She just wanted someone she could hook up with. I think as with other things like horoscopes and other things that are of the like mystical nature, as soon as she like said what she wanted, then she like gave herself permission to start recognizing signs or start recognizing the things that she was trying to find, right? So if I'm working on something specific and I discover something for the first time that I've never heard before, bet that in the next like week, I'm going to hear that thing everywhere. Like, I'll start working on a project and I will never have known this thing existed. And then I'll be driving down and like suddenly seeing it everywhere. And it's because of, you know, opening up your brain to being perceptive of that thing. So I think because she got to that point of like, I just need someone, like, I need a sign, I need something to help me, she like gave herself permission to see Zaf that way, especially after the like rescue, like after they had all these interactions every day, and she admits, you know, herself that she is like shutting people out. She doesn't want to see people. But as soon as it's like, oh, this is the thing that I want, it's kind of like, oh, que milagro, what is this thing? And then I think her practice, I think it's sweet. I think, you know, a lot of us are trying to find ways to like keep our families with us in our everyday life and keep our ancestors with us. And, you know, belief and religion and all of these things form such a big part in one way or another, either through presence or absence when we're getting older, that getting to an age where you can kind of craft it to be what you need it to be, I think there's a lot of value in that. So I think, you know, she might not have been super confident in what she was doing, but even just being able to have these like rituals for herself, because that's, you know, that's kind of how I am with some stuff. Like, I do buy like crystals, and I have sage, and I have, you know, my little things that I do for myself, and it's like it makes it almost feel like I have some sort of say or power over whatever is happening around me, and trying to have that sort of power, even if it's just a little bit, that just like makes a big difference in how I approach my day. So I feel like that's kind of similar to how she acts in the story too.
That's cool. I didn't think of it that way. I mean, I guess I did, but I like what you said about she just kind of like manifested it, the secret style. Manifested it, and then it
Exactly.
came together for her. What do you think, Drea?
I agree with Tashai. I think that her rituals were this like really nice form of self-care that, you know, she did to feel good, and also to bond with her friend, and just feel like she's reaching out to family. And she admits it, right? She herself says like, this is kind of throwing things together, you know. So I don't think she's really trying to be super authentic and in her practice, or follow some kind of like rules or anything. She's just kind of doing what feels right. And I do agree with Tashai that, you know, the asking for a fuck buddy then gave her permission to then recognize a fuck buddy, you know what I mean? Because she had already said, oh, I think he's super hot. Like, she has said it a bunch of times, you know, to her friend, like, oh, yeah, the super hot security guard. But she was like, no, I cannot. And then when he rescues her, sign, is this a sign? You know what I mean? The same way that like you would read a horoscope that says like, take a chance on a new, you know, path to love, and then someone invites you to a club and you're like, should I say yes? Is this what my horoscope meant? You know, so I saw it kind of similarly, but also the coincidence that he is someone that she was attracted to, but they had never actually touched. And so I think the fact that she got put into the situation where he like physical chemistry, then she was like, oh shit, like now he's not just eye candy, now he's someone that she can legit picture herself having sex with. And so I think that went a long way too. I think if it had been a hint, she might not have listened to it the way she did in this case.
So cool. I really like both of those perspectives. I don't want to say that I didn't think about that, but I guess my answer would be yes, the statue definitely sent back to her. And in the movie of my mind, right, when the movie is over and then they pan into like the apartment with all of her plants, and then her altar is there, the statue is just like a, you know, and it winks, you know, and that's, you know, it was grandma all along. But, you know, I think that, you know, both can exist. I just, you know me, I'm a fantasy reader. My favorite thing about Hibbert's writing is her really sharp humor and wit. And then she kind of like infuses her characters with it so that they just feel real. Like, I can picture people saying this. So my questions are, did you find the book funny? Because I found it really funny. And do you think that you can achieve like Dani Zaf levels of, I said, verbal intercourse, because they flirt and they like zing each other a lot? And whenever I read scenes like that, I'm like, dang it, like I could never. I am not that good at, you know, coming up with things on the spot. I'm the kind of person that if I'm trying to flirt, I have to make sure not to try too hard because I'll make an ass of myself. But also, I will, after whatever interaction I'm having, I will go to my house. On the drive home, I will cringe because I'm like, oh, I could have said that. Oh, why didn't I say that? Or I'll get in the shower and I'll be like, oh, you know, those moments when you just have to yourself. So yeah, did you think the book was funny? You know, and do you think that you can go toe to toe with Dani and Zaf, either or?
I thought the book was really funny. Like, I laughed out loud a few times and would interrupt whatever I was doing to be like, oh my god, wait, let me redo this paragraph. And every time I was like, okay, wait, hold on. So let me set the scene. But yeah, I thought the book was really funny. I think she has a very natural way of making conversations seem as if you were like listening in on people talking, which is like, it's rare. It's rare to read dialogue that feels natural, that doesn't feel like it's setting up the story. Instead, it feels like it is just like part of the conversation and that she happens to listen in on. So I thought it was really funny. I do like it. And then, girl, you know I'm a flirt. You know I would, please. Con cualquiera los dos. I would have like, I'm fast. I'm fast on my toes. I'm fast at texting. I've like,
yes, you are. I remember I've had you kind of like help me, like, okay, what do I say? And then you give me the answer, and I'm like, that's so smart. Why didn't I think of that? I'm terrible at that.
I've done that with so many friends. I've done that like with my family members who've been flirting. I've helped guy friends. I'm just like my body is built for this. I'm like,
this is one of your superpowers.
Carrie was having some internet problems, and so now she's recording here. So now that we've talked about, I'm sorry, what was that?
I just want to let it be known. Over the knee socks are one of the most like sexy things that you can wear, regardless of what outfit you're pairing them with. So like,
thanks. This is like the best flirter. That's right. Okay, so now that we have flirted our way through that question, let's move on to the next one. See, terrible game. I can't. Whatever. All right, so it goes back to what Tashai had said earlier when we were giving our overall impressions. Something about not being able to connect with Dani as much. So I feel like I got to know Zaf really well. Do you guys feel like we got to know Dani just as thoroughly as him? And then as a result, did we like her less because we didn't know her?
Okay. Like you said, we get to know Zaf a lot. And I think it's because a lot of his monologue, like internal monologue, is him trying to figure out how he's reacting to things as they're happening, why he's reacting to things a certain way, what has like provoked his feelings. And because of that, we get to kind of see how the like tragedy of losing family members affected him, how the next few years went down. And so I feel like we got this pretty detailed SparkNotes version of what his life was throughout the book. With Dani, I think the problem is we don't find out what happened with her previous relationship until like 70% of the way through the book. When you find out what happened, it's kind of a throwaway bit of info. There's no real conversation about how she felt afterwards. Basically, like, she was betrayed by the person she was dating. She kind of had like changed herself to keep him around. He cheated on her. And then after that, she's like, never again. But it was such a black and white explanation about what happened that I didn't get any additional info into like the years after that, what other relationships she was in that kind of continued to foster this feeling she had. All we kept hearing in her inner monologues was her stressing out about her presentation at her job and her obsessing about him. And now that we're talking about it, you know, I think maybe that's done on purpose because Dani doesn't let herself live in her own past, doesn't let herself live in the things that hurt her. She kind of just hyper focuses on work. That's the only thing she pays attention to. And then Zaf starts like intruding in her thoughts. So it's almost like our experience with Dani is the experience that everyone else has had with her. And then Zaf was able to get this like deeper experience with her. So I don't think we got to know the full Dani because I think only Zaf got to know the full Dani. And Zaf is an open book for us because he's an open book to himself. That's my answer.
Do you want to go now?
Yeah.
What do
Oh,
think?
you already unmuted us.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it didn't, the Dani's backstory didn't really bother me. Like, I agree that to me it seems kind of excessive to kind of revamp your whole idea of relationships just because of this one relationship. But I also think it's realistic because I know a lot of people who are like that, and not just in relationships, but just in anything. Like, they'll have one experience and then they'll just like carry that forever and not give anything or anybody else a chance because of that one like bad experience. So I thought it was pretty realistic. I wanted to be like, oh, don't be stupid, Dani. But like, I never thought it was necessarily like too shallow or, you know, not deep enough, because I do think that, you know, people are changed by negative experiences in different ways. So what might not be enough to change my outlook on romance was clearly enough to change hers. So that didn't really bother me, honestly. I honestly, I didn't even think about it. Like, at no point was I like, oh, am I getting to know Dani as well as I am Zaf? Because I feel like in a lot of romance novels that I've read, I don't necessarily get that like super, super deep backstory, because the focus is more on the now and the romance rather than this particular character's like development throughout their life kind of thing. So maybe my expectations are different for romance. But it wasn't something that I really thought about or that really bothered me. I mean, I thought she was cool. I would hang out with her. We'd be kind of pretty opposites, but
She'd still be cool.
But I still have a drink with her. And I definitely like be friends with Zaf. I mean, I think Zaf would annoy me if we were friends, but only because I would see myself reflected too much in him. And I don't like being friends with people who are just like me, because then it's like too much emotion.
Anxiety tornado.
Yeah, like I can't be around people who are as emotional as me, because then it's like too much. So I'd probably hang out with Dani over Zaf. But I like them both, and I like their backstories. I really just overall enjoyed this romance a lot.
So the reason I was asking was because I personally felt like there was an imbalance. And this is one of those occasions where I will have to call upon the first book of the series, because I know that she knows how to do it. I wanted more details on this really, really important aspect of Dani's life. So she's always in the library. So even if I'm in her head, I should still know what books she's like possibly pulling from the library. What the only thing I see is like that she's was like has like a wall of sticky notes, and she's like always doing research, and she's always falling asleep, and she's always this, and when it comes time to the symposium, like I was really disappointed that there was no like clip of it, that there was no conversation between her and and so I feel like I wanted to know, because that's what I always say, where I want more. So I wanted to go deeper into Dani than as deep as we did with Zaf. And because with Chloe, right, we don't just hear her talking about her disability. We see her doing it as well. We see her like, you know, dealing with it. And when she has like these adventures with Red, they really come up a lot. It's something that they talk about a lot in detail. They go through it. And so I feel like I know Chloe inside and out. Whereas I just know that Dani's a study-holic, workaholic, and yes, she's interested in intersectionality, and yes, she was doing the symposium, but I feel like it was kind of breezed over, and I really wanted that. I don't feel like I got to the core at the end of the book. I don't feel like I really got to the core of who Dani was as well as I did with Zaf. I felt like I knew him and his family and what he was about really well. Not necessarily in the same way. And that's not to say that I didn't get to know her at all. But I would say I felt a little, without that, it felt a little superficial to me. It lacked that like verisimilitude, you know, that not that we did see her give class, but you know, it was just those little things that I felt it lacked for me to really connect with Dani. And so there were some points where I felt like, okay, do I like her? Like I felt that way because she's really witty, she's really sassy, but I was like, okay, is there more here? Or like what else is going on here? And I don't feel like I ever got the answer to that. So I'm open to rebuttals now. I just wanted to put it all out there.
No, you convince me with the clip of the symposium, because I think I understand her not going more into specific about her work necessarily, because a lot of the times when she's talking to Zaf or other people, her assumption is they don't care about this and they're not interested. Mm-hmm. So I can understand why she wouldn't really talk about it in mm-hmm. detail. And really, I can understand why she wouldn't necessarily talk about it to herself, because that's not how like my inner monologue works. So I wouldn't necessarily expect it. Mm-hmm. But you're right. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have because we got a clip of her in the classroom. So there's no reason why we shouldn't have gotten a clip of her finally showing off at the symposium and debating with these other people.
Yeah, and Zaf, we get to see Zaf in action too. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Tosh? I see you shaking your head over there. I need to know what's going on.
Because I feel like as soon as you enter the realm of then showing what her research and all that stuff is based on, that's all shit that's going to get copywritten. Like, you can't build an argument for a story that's like realistic enough sounding to be happening in a symposium where people who are studying this in their career discuss it without the author then having to do her own shit ton of research, so she's not putting her foot in her mouth. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, I agree, but it's one thing to like literally write it word for word and like present thesis, and then another thing is like they didn't even react to, well, I love what you said about Tashai's literal analysis of copywriting in novels. That's, I can say that. Yeah, there was no
because I don't think it was ever like, I understand what you're saying and mm-hmm. I wish we had seen it, but I think like in the purpose of the symposium was more just to show, you worked hard and then actually did really great. You were super anxious, but look, things turned out okay. And hey, your boo was here and was supportive. And this person you admire gave you permission to go fuck your boo. Like,
that's what I think the whole symposium was about. Was
like that was why that happened.
Someone who's so fixated on like her career. This is who I'm gonna be. Like, that's what my goal is, to have that person be like, you're going really hard right now, and like you need to take a step back. You don't look like you've been sleeping. You should do something you enjoy.
Yeah, I felt a little deflated. Yeah, I felt a little bit deflated that there wasn't more about that, because there was the build up to the sex, right? But for Dani, the biggest build up aside from that was the symposium. So I just felt like the wind was let out of my sails a little bit, because I was expecting, at least anything, and I didn't really get anything. So that's why I was feeling that type of way about that.
I mean, I think I would also probably say that her work isn't the main thing she has to work through to be able to make the relationship like work, like to be able to resolve the main relationship conflict. Like, Zaf already worked through his stuff, so we heard about it, we knew that was going on, but we also don't experience Zaf necessarily talking that much about rugby. Like, we don't hear him talking to the kids about how to deal with their anxiety. Like, it doesn't dive in. It's happening because his is, I think, easier to talk around. Like, rugby practice, like, these are two kids that I talk about. Like, they used to be really bad last year, but they're much better now. Like, I think it's easier to offhandedly kind of sprinkle that on. Whereas her stuff is, like, very complicated. Like,
yeah, like everyone can maybe talk about anxiety or a moment where they had anxiety, but not everyone can intelligently speak to. But I don't think that Talia Hibbert is not intelligent enough to. So
that makes sense what Tashai said, because I haven't read Chloe Brown, but it seems like her disability is a big hurdle to her, like finding this love or accepting this love, right? Whereas you're right, Tashai, like Dani's work is not a hurdle really to her relationship. It's her commitment issues and acceptance of love. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's like a deal breaker, but now that you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, it would have been nice, but like in the moment I didn't think like,
it's a quibble. It's a quibble.
It's a little thing.
So I wanted to also, like, I had asked Bisexual Book Nerd that I know she loved this book. She's a friend, mutual on Instagram.
And you should follow her if you don't, because her stories are hilarious. And all she does is talk about sex scenes in books. And I'm not even into sex scenes in books. That's like my least favorite part of romance, but I love everything that she talks about. And I really want her to write that book that she pretended like she was going to write about a man who turned into a lobster, like a werewolf book, but like a lobster book.
Yeah, because it was like in Maine or something.
I would read that. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there. I would read the lobster book.
All right. So I had asked her, I said, hey, we're discussing Dani Brown. I know you're a fan. So, like, do you have any questions or anything like you know that you want to bring up? And she sent me this. It's a little long, but I'll just try to move through it quickly. She says, the one thing that stuck out to me on my reread was how incredible Dani Brown, the character, is. So she felt like, you know, she was incredible and fully fledged, which inspired this question. Because I didn't feel like she was fully fledged, but maybe I'm wrong. Dani Brown, like the first read, I was a big swoon Zaf. I was like big swoon for Zaf because he's amazing. But also, like, Dani is really carving out a space for herself and finding meaning in a world that makes those things really hard. She mentions in the book that there are only 30 Black professors, or Black female professors, I forget, in the entire country, and yet she has laid out a plan to get tenure. And she is finding her spirituality, even though her Nana didn't really leave her with the tools to do so. And she uses crystals, even though she knows other people think they're silly. And she's unapologetically queer. Like, I don't know, in a world that is so unkind, she is just herself. And that's something that I've been thinking about. How do we find meaning and beauty in a world that values consumption and conformity? And I think Dani is such a good example of how to do that. Oh, also, how amazing is it that she has a tattoo on her ass that says "bite me." So thank you, Bisexual Book Nerd, for that. You know, that little blurb, not blurb, but your little bubble of thought there.
Yes.
I agree. I read that and was like, do I feel the same way about Dani? And that's what brought about the question for me, really. But I do think that Dani is an amazing character. Like I said, Black, bisexual, witchy woman that I would absolutely be too terrified to speak to, but would, you know, dream about talking. I would sign up for a class just to have her like insult me. And I would sit there with nothing else to say because just not strong enough.
You would like get home and you would text us and be like, why am I not smart enough to win her over? I turned in this essay and she only gave me an A- and this means she hates me.
Got it. Okay. So unless is there anything else to add, I will move on to my next question.
No, I will. I would just say that we didn't talk about the whole professorship thing, but she's right. And even though in the US there are more women of color who are professors, there's still not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about, you know, us as like Latinx women, the amount of Latinx professors is like tiny. So you're right. It is. I did think it was very cool to see someone pursuing that and to have this plan laid out. So anyway, I really admired her for just knowing what she wanted so firmly.
Ditto on that. Like every couple of months I have like my nervous breakdown of like, is this job what I want to be doing in 10 years? And if it's not, then like, what the fuck is it? But I have so much debt that if I don't do this job, then like, what else am I gonna do? Like, nothing pays like this, and like, spirals.
Yes, I did.
It's a really good snack.
Mm-hmm.
Feels better.
I agree that, yeah, I admire Dani's like tenacity and clearness of purpose. And even if it's in a book, it was still good to see someone clear when sometimes things just aren't as clear.
Yeah. I would also definitely take her class. Like I would have gone to that symposium too.
Yes.
Like, as they were talking, it was
I wanted to go to that symposium.
as even like the topic of her research, like all that stuff is like I remember going to my fancy classes in New York, and the first like month I just felt like such an idiot because I did not understand what any of these words were, and to like see her as a character just be like it's like Zaf says, where he's like in awe of her ability to just treat these as topics and not as these boulders of knowledge. So she's just like, bah, 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 yeah, and then this and this and this and this. And he's just like, oh, she's so smart.
I think we all were just like, wow, wow, wow. All right, so let's see. My next question is a spicy question. How did you feel? So, like I had said before, Dani, Black bisexual witch. So the middle part, bisexual. How did you guys feel about the bisexual representation in this book? And I'll start off by saying that I don't even know what I'm trying to say. That yes, bisexual women have relationships with men. But as a queer woman, I felt like the fact that she was bisexual was a big draw. Like I know that it came out a lot, and it even is in the back of the book in the description. But I don't know if I like really felt that queerness as much as I thought I would. I know that Zaf is the main interest, right? And he is a man. But I just wonder, and it's one of those things like if I take the fact that Dani is bisexual out of the book, does anything change in the book? Does anything have to change? And I kind of struggled with it. I remember bringing it up to Andrea when I saw the next book come out, the title, and I was a little disappointed because I thought that we were kind of going queerer and queerer into the series, but it looks like from the cover reveal and the description that, you know, that Evie's going to end up with a man as well. And that's fine. Again, bisexual women are attracted to women and men, and they can only have relationships with men and still be bisexual. But I don't know why I personally felt like the bisexual rep in this book was kind of like that a boca pa fuera almost. And that's it. And I don't know, it wasn't enough for me to feel like really proud. Does that make sense? To feel like, oh, I'm represented, or I feel this so hard. She does have like kind of like a strifey relationship with her ex, whoever she was hooking up with before, who was the other woman that she, who was the other woman that she's, you know, that she had that sexual relationship with, and it didn't work out, and you know they kind of like mend fences or whatever, and that's it. You know, it just wasn't very apparent to me in Dani's case, or it just didn't come across to me like a really strong bi rep. And I don't know if I don't know. Help. That's my question. How do you feel about the bisexual representation? Help me understand my feelings, please.
I didn't have a problem with it.
Me neither. But...
Well, I mean, it didn't feel inauthentic to me either. I saw it more as like, oh, you know what? Dani has commitment problems no matter who it is, as opposed to like a man hurt me once and now I have a thing against men. Like, no, in her case, it was a man hurt me once and now I will never love again, no matter who. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I saw it. It really didn't affect me any sort of way. I thought she was very nonchalant about it. And I feel like that's the way I personally am too. Mm-hmm. Like I've dated multiple genders and multiple types of relationships. And it doesn't, I don't know. I don't know how I would act queerer, and I don't know how Dani would act queerer. Mm-hmm. So like, to me, it wasn't really an issue.
Got it. Okay. What about you, Tosh? What do you think?
I think because we are dropped into the story where she's already dealt with her past relationship by ignoring it, then there's no opportunity for us to learn any more about her, what her queer experience, her bisexual experience is, because all of her attention right now is focused on either her work or Zaf. And it'd be probably a different story if, like, after they're in a relationship together, maybe we catch them at a bar and she, like, is checking girls out and is telling him what her type is, you know, is, like, filling him in on, like, what her taste in women is. It'd be different if we had caught her earlier on in the breakdown of her relationship with Joe, because then we would have at least gotten to see what her experience was like in this relationship. But I think it's just we got dropped in this, like, male focused, like, she's using her, all of her senses are focused on, like, the overwhelming manliness of Zaph's, like, testosterone fueled existence and his thick thighs. And so I think he is just this, like, ball of lust that all other perception is kind of knocked out of the window. Whereas, like, if we had caught her in between a bigger gap of, like, the end of her relationship and her meeting Zaph and, like, getting the sign, like, we caught her right as she's asking for a sign to, like, fuck someone, and she imprints on Zaph, and everything zeroes in.
You're imprinting on my baby.
Everything zeroes in. You nicknamed her after the Loch Ness monster. Like, it zeroes in on Zaph, and so we just lost out. I think we just lost out. Like, we missed out on being able to see that experience. Because, like, as a person who is attracted to basically everyone, like, I'm in a happy, committed relationship, and trust me, I see attractiveness. I'm in Instagram DMing him, like, oh my god, like, fuck. The lady I send you guys who does the, like, sword fruit cutting in her backyard. Like,
the samurai one.
Oh my god,
samurai. like
respectfully.
We are all respectfully gay as fuck. Okay. But that's not the chapter we got dropped in on. We got dropped in on her being like, ooh, that dick. And, like, that's what she cares about.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I
would read a single Dani book. Like I want to see how she plays this game. I want to see her play the field. I want to see her, like.
Me too. And I guess I wish that I could have seen that too. But okay, so you're right. We did get dropped in a chapter of her life where it was just Zaph dick, and that's okay. And that doesn't make her any less bisexual. I just kind of, I don't know. I just was like, okay, like, why are we just saying it? Like, we're saying it just to say it? Like, what's the, you know what I mean? I was just like, why is this such a sticking point in the description of the book? And there's, so I guess it's just representation. Boom. And this is a bisexual woman in a relationship with a cis man. Boom. We're done. Cis straight man. Right.
Don't worry, Chris. Whenever I have my wedding, it'll be very gay. You'll get all the representation. It'll be all over the place. Y'all are having
as heck, because okay, cool. So on lighter fare. Don't be reading my questions now that you're here.
I can't even read that.
She's cheating me, see?
So Zafir has good reasons, valid reasons to read romance, and I pulled a quote because I thought it was so sweet. I was like, oh my god, adorable. At the time, it was romance novels that reminded me. Since you've never read one, he's talking to Dani. That probably sounds weird, but it's all about emotion, Dan. Just the whole thing, the whole story, the whole point. Just book after book about people facing their issues head on and handling it and never ever failing, at least not for good. I felt like my world had already ended unhappily, but every book I read about someone who'd been through the worst and found happiness anyway seemed to say the opposite. Like, my story didn't need to be over if I didn't want it to. Like, if I could just be strong enough to reclaim my emotions and to work through them, maybe I'd be okay again. That's kind of what inspired me to keep going, to make good choices, even when feeling better seemed impossible. Sorry, I'm going to read it. And so my question is, as I insert emotion quote here. So I guess it's a really broad question. And we've been reading romance together for a while. And I just kind of want to know, what do you get out of reading romance?
Okay, so romance is not my thing. And even 58/59 episodes later, it is still not my thing. But I do think it has taught me more about why it isn't and is my thing. Like, I've discovered, like, even though romance will never be my preferred genre, I have over the past few years discovered what I like more in my romance and like what kind of characters I am into emotionally, I guess, or which ones I could see myself pursuing. And which things are like complete like no-nos, huge like turn-offs. So that's been interesting for me to think about. Just like now, if you asked me, oh, Andrea, what's your favorite like romance trope, or like what kind of romances do you like? Like, I would be able to give you an answer.
He comes from the apocalypse.
Whereas before, I would have said like romance, what? Ew, nothing. But now I could like pick through it. So that's personally that's been kind of cool. But then kind of on a deeper note, I think when I do choose romance for myself, I do pick queer romance specifically more than any other kind, just because it is cool to be able to like explore that, I guess. I never read I barely read queer books growing up, period, because I just didn't have any, but I definitely didn't read any queer romance. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why it took me so long to even like realize like my identity. But even when I was dating people who weren't men, I still wasn't reading about it either. So I think that that's been like a very recent thing. And so I've been reading it both in like adult romance, but also like YA romance. And it's just been like a nice thing to explore, because it's something that I feel like I kind of missed out on being able to see that in books, you know, because I've always been such an avid reader, but I never really got to read that. So that's something that I personally search for too.
Nice. What about you, Tosh? Want a little temperature on your romance? What's going on with you?
I think romance is just a different way for me to kind of put a pause on like everything bad that is happening. And, you know, like Zaf's character says, you know, there's like a guarantee of happiness in a lot of these books, despite going through hardships and despite whatever difficulties the characters go through. And, you know, it's funny because when I read middle grade books, they're always so much more heartbreaking than any adult romances that I read, because it's almost like the lessons are backwards, right? So, or not backwards, the lessons are appropriate per group. So with a lot of the middle grade YA books, it's like life can be great, but sometimes terrible things happen. And with romance books, a lot of the times it's terrible things happen, but life is still good and it's still worth living. And so a lot of, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm being cheesy. No, so like a lot of times it's lighthearted and it's funny and it's jokey, but like, you know, at least real talk, like I didn't ever think I was necessarily going to find someone who would like love me. And so I got into reading like fanfic and books and fantasy when I was younger, because like everyone at least got what they had hoped to get in those books at one point or another. Like, even if it's not 100% what they wanted, it's what they needed. And so as I've gotten older with these books, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't necessarily know if I'm ever going to get all the stuff that I think I want, but at least when I'm reading these kinds of books, I know that like they're going to find what's going to help them the most and what's actually going to like bring them happiness. So it's, you know, it's a mixture of things. I need something to help me recover from freaking King of the Dragonfly. Jesus Christ. Like, I'll be reading.
Sorry for choosing.
Don't be sorry.
Like,
it's good. It was good.
Deep
No,
and
it was
emotionally complex middle grade books.
I will not apologize.
It's not just.
I don't think you should apologize. I will not apologize for choosing deep and emotionally complex. No, and I like that. I like that Zaf loves reading romance, and I like his reasons for it. And so I just kind of wanted to know, aside from book club, why have we stuck out for so long, right? What's the reason, and what have you gotten out of it? It's nice. I was just checking the oil of the pulse. That's all I was doing. So
it's still beating. That's good.
I mean, it's still beating strong.
I read a lot more romance now because of this book club, but I've read romance before. Like it's a genre I know I can count on when I want something that's gonna be like there's some movies that I'm not gonna watch because I know it's not gonna be a happy ending. And if I'm not in that headspace, like I'd rather distract myself and like have a guarantee.
Sorry for the octopus to shy.
Bizarre dream. Did I tell you, Tosh, that I dreamt that something happened to Lila's arm and then she grew a tiny arm?
Oh.
It was not good. I was hysterically crying when it happened.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, we have movie nights sometimes, and I picked the last time, which means, of course,
we all cried.
There's a movie about an octopus, and octopuses don't live forever.
Listen, I think we should wrap this up. And so my last question or my last request is, if you were to be in a brown sister type novel, what would be the title? So just for example, so blank, 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 Cristina Canales, or blank, 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 Andrea, blank, 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 Tashai. So, and try, if you want, you can try to base it on a positive. I think you should try to base it on a positive romantic note. But what would your brown sister title be? I can go first.
Tashai is ready.
She's
already laughing at her title.
Well, okay, so I had an idea for one, and then I had another idea for another one that I thought would be funny. But okay, if I'm going on like a positive spin on whatever, it'd be like Take a Bite, Tashai Gonzalez. And it would be like a chef. Like I would be in some sort of relationship with like a chef. But if it's a book about me like needing to get my shit together to be able to find love appropriately, it would be Calm Your Tits, Tashai Gonzalez.
Oh, so good. So good. They're both so good. I'm mad. I hope maybe it's a double. Maybe it's like Bridget Jones. It's like 2 books. So maybe the first one is Take a Bite, and the next one is Calm Your Tits. She's already in the relationship and now needs to calm down about what the relationship is.
Yes.
Forget. Okay, do you want to go next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine would be Wait It Out, Andrea. Because very often in my life, I have only achieved relationships by literally just waiting the person out. Yeah, I'm that person who
must break you.
Who just I break them, I team them over time.
Ay, Dios mío, that was perfect.
Well, mine's lame, but I mean, I guess you would already know that because you know that I'm a lame person. So mine is Get Over It, Chris, and that's because no matter how hard or no matter how good or bad, I always hang on, or big or small, I will always hang on to the things that have really deeply affected me, and so I think that the best times. The best times I've had romantically have been times where I've let go of, dumb things that were holding me back and open myself up to something new. So that would be mine. Mine would be Get Over It, Chris.
Okay. I'm going to pitch my idea for your book title, Christina.
Okay. I'm scared. It's going to be too real.
Build a Bridge, Cristina Canales.
So constructive. Build a bridge. Wait it out. Build a bridge. Take a bite, Calm Your Tits.
Okay. And then my take on Andrea's book would be Hit the Snooze, Andrea Arango.
I love it. I wish I had, you know what?
Por eso que Tashai writes marketing ads and we don't.
Love it. That's why we don't. That's why I just answer phones. Yeah. Okay, so that was cool. I'm glad you guys. I know I told you to kind of like think about it, but it was beyond my expectations. So yeah, that's our hangout for Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I hope that you enjoyed it and you stuck through it. If you have any other, like if you wanted us to maybe discuss something else, you can feel free to write a comment on our Instagram or a comment on the YouTube video. Or send us a DM. Just reach out and do my best to answer. Or maybe we'll get together for after party about Take a Hint for all the stuff that maybe we didn't get to talk about. And so next month, we're moving into Q4. Super exciting.
How?
I believe 2020. No, I can't. And so the next book is Tashai's pick, and it was because Tashai actually won this book for us in an online Instagram giveaway. And that book is it's actually coming out this month. So cool. I'm going to post about it. Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman.
Yeah, brujeria.
Yeah, the prequel to Pretzel is appropriately witchy. And it's by like one of my favorite authors of witchy things, because I've read a couple of her books, but also like I love practical magic. We need to have like a movie night to watch it. It says, where does the story of the Owens bloodline begin? With Maria Owens in the 1600s, when she's abandoned in a snowy field in rural England as a baby. Under the care of Hannah Owens, Maria learns about the nameless art. Hannah recognizes that Maria has a gift, and she teaches the girl all she knows. It is here that she learns her first important lesson. Always love someone who will love you back. Get a clue? Okay. When Maria is betrayed by the man who has declared his love for her, she follows him to Salem, Massachusetts, as one does. Here, she invokes the curse that will haunt her family, and it is here that she learns the rules of magic and the lessons she will carry with her for the rest of her life. Love is the only thing that matters. Magic Lessons is a celebration of life and love and a showcase of Alice Hoffman's masterful storytelling. I'm getting ready with my Stevie Nicks vibes.
I'm gonna cry so much.
That's gonna be our next pick, and that is going to happen. I guess we'll record a video and release it at the end of October. I'm really excited. So yeah. In the meantime, register to vote. Don't forget to do that.
Oh my God, yes.
Don't forget to check us out on our social media. You can see all of the stuff that we're doing in our link trees. Just follow the links there, and we'll see you in October. Happy Latinx Heritage Month, y'all.
Bop, bop, bop. That's my
we pour one out for RBG, and happy 3rd anniversary to Hurricane Maria. Lots of stuff has been happening this week.
Oh God. Yeah, our timeline flashbacks next year are going to be intense.
Yeah, really intense. But
all right. Cheers, internet.
Cheers.